so that in 6 months, they can return for another chance at striking it rich.
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election, and that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February.
The Prime Minister fights back tears as she announces her resignation.
And so it begins. The chats over a beer, the lobbying, the search for a new Labour leader is underway.
And no surprises here, food prices have shot through the roof, the biggest increase since records began. Good evening. The Prime Minister has announced her resignation. After 5.5 years, Jacinda Ardern said she no longer has enough gas in the tank for the demanding job.
The Labour Party caucus will vote on Sunday for the person who will be our next Prime Minister. Political editor Jenna Lynch reports on the decision that dropped like a bombshell.
Overwhelmed with emotion, taking a moment before announcing her time is up.
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election.
Holding back tears, Jacinda Ardern telling the country she is done.
And that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February.
5.5 years at the top felt like a lifetime.
I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. It's that simple.
Shock is an understatement. Her colleagues dumbfounded.
I think that this morning has certainly come as a shock. It wasn't the day that we expected to wake up to today.
It came as a surprise. It wasn't the conversation that I had thought we would be having as our first caucus of the year.
Yeah, I was just really sad and disappointed.
It's fair to say they were surprised.
Surprised but grateful. Resounding applause, hugs, a waiata. Jacinda Ardern got the lot. And not just from her MPs, the love and shock reverberating through the family too. Though she didn't quite let Neve in on the secret.
I haven't yet. 4-year-olds are chatty. Couldn't run the risk.
The opposition hit by the bolt out of the blue.
Our caucus was, we got together after we all watched the television and we all came together and talked about it briefly and about the election date and then we carried on.
And of course, the public from her Mount Albert constituents.
I think it's a wise decision. Her own personal popularity has taken a hit in the last year or so.
About time, mate, to be honest.
Across Auckland.
Jacinda Ardern just announced she's no longer going to be Prime Minister from February the 7th.
Oh, that's really sad. I'm a big fan.
She's done it, Des. See you later. Let somebody else take over.
What? Wow, that's a shame.
To the public of the capital city.
No, not at all, yeah. I was kind of expecting her to stay on a bit longer and, you know, I didn't really have any negative feelings towards her.
I think it's a good thing. Good thing?
Yeah.
I'm not from New Zealand, I'm from Austria, but I can't tell you how happy that makes me.
And down south in Christchurch.
It's been a tough few years to be the Prime Minister, hasn't it? So, yeah, I think she's done well.
Bit of a surprise, isn't it? Not really unexpected, though. No, I wish her all the best for the future.
The bombshell hit the same. What? Why?
The only interesting angle that you will find is that after going on 6 years of some big challenges, I am human. Politicians are human. We give all that we can for as long as we can, and then it's time.
What specifically was the moment that you realised that you couldn't do it anymore?
You'll also hear from my reflections that there hasn't been one singular moment, not one point in time. I think the cumulative challenges that we've faced as a team, and they have been extraordinary, has taken its toll.
It's been a lot, from her meteoric rise to the leadership of the Labour Party 7 weeks out from the 2017 election.
Gosh, this of all days, there's no bloody sausage rolls.
She took the reins of the country at the same time as preparing for the job of a lifetime, motherhood. But after the happiest times came the darkest times. The following year, the darkest day, March 15, 51 people lost their lives.
They are us.
And the Whakaari White Island eruption.
And an active police search and rescue operation is underway.
With the turn of a new decade came perhaps her greatest ongoing challenge, a deadly pandemic. Ardern charged with protecting a nation. She took an unprecedented step. She locked down the entire country.
Our plan is simple. We can stop the spread by staying at home and reducing contact.
Rising to unfathomable heights of popularity, a majority MMP government.
We will be a party that governs for every New Zealander.
Then the popularity plummeted. Unpopular policy and restrictions took their toll. The public turned. They protested.
How much did you reflect on your personal popularity ratings when making this decision?
You'll hear in my comments that my reflection was entirely on the next 4 years.
Right up until Christmas, she promised she'd stick it out. She was in it for the long haul.
Do you intend to run as the MP for Mount Albert next year? Do you intend to run as an elected MP?
Yes, I've already signalled to my team that I'll be looking for that selection to be happening early in the new year.
But ultimately, she's got nothing left to give.
But I'm not leaving because it was hard. Had that been the case, I probably would have departed 2 months into the job.
And now it's time to finally give some time to her family.
And so to Neve, Mum is looking forward to being there when you start school this year. And to Clark, let's finally get married.
From let's do this to I'm done.
Kia ora, Jenna. Well, quite the day, wasn't it? What was it like in the room when the PM announced her resignation?
Jaws hit the floor. Everyone was flabbergasted. No one saw this coming. The Prime Minister announced her intentions to her cabinet colleagues at 7 a.m, but everyone kept it zipped. Not a hint, not a whisper, not a peep of the bombshell that was about to drop. We got a bit of an inkling that the election date might have been announced, but as soon as she said, "I've been reflecting," there was an audible gasp followed by a deathly silence in the room as the Prime Minister, overcome with emotion, brimming with tears, announced that she would be resigning. Some of her staff were in the room. They were emotional too. I understand the Prime Minister had practiced that speech a number of times and every time was overcome with the gravity of what she was about to do. It is a difficult call to make, knowing when is the right time to walk away. And now with the shock echoing throughout the country, the task in front of Labour is immense. Choose the next leader, the next Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Tēnā koe, Jenna.
Well, almost buried in today's resignation was the announcement that October 14th has been set as the date of the election, which begs the question, who will Labour choose to go up against National Leader Christopher Luxon? The name that first springs to mind is Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robertson, but he has already ruled himself out, which leaves a number of other ministers who could be contenders. Chris Hipkins, Michael Wood, Kiri Tapu-Allen. Political reporter Amelia Wade looks at who will become New Zealand's 41st Prime Minister.
A day like this calls for a pint. A beersy for New Zealand's next PM, perhaps.
I've indicated I'm not going to indicate that today.
Standing for
about celebrating one of the finest Prime Ministers we've already had, and after that we'll have a caucus process.
I've been leader once. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Who are you backing for the leadership?
Well, there's no candidates at the moment, so...
Will you put your name forward?
I most certainly will not.
With the obvious contender, the Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robertson, ruling himself out.
I have received the blessing of Grant to share with you what he has shared with caucus today, and that is he will not be putting himself forward to be a potential candidate as a future leader.
Because you have to 100% commit to that. That's what the Prime Minister said today. I'm very proud and happy to be the Minister of Finance, but in 2014 I said that I would not run again for the Labour Party leadership, and I haven't changed my mind on that.
Leaving the leadership contest wide open for contenders like Chris Hipkins. He's aged 44, entered Parliament in 2008. He's a long-time friend of Ardern's and he's currently the Police, Education, Public Service Minister and Leader of the House. He's local MP for Remutaka in the Hutt Valley, but is known to most Kiwis for his time leading the COVID response.
Right, good afternoon everybody. Kia ora koutou, good afternoon. Good afternoon everybody, thank you for your patience.
And all the gaffes which launched 1,000 memes which came with it.
It is a challenge in higher density areas for people to get outside and to spread their legs when they are when they're surrounded by other people.
The meme minister not ruling out a tilt at becoming Prime Minister. But you're not ruling it out.
No, I'm not, but I'm also saying that, at the moment, I think people just need a little bit of time.
Also not ruling it out, Michael Wood.
And just to be clear, you're not ruling out running for the leadership?
I'm not even talking about that today. Today is a day to reflect on a very fine leader, and after that we'll have an internal process.
You get to be Prime Minister. Prime Minister Wood?
Wood's 42, has been an MP since 2016 as Minister for Transport, Immigration and Workplace Relations and the MP for Mount Roskill in Auckland. Also possibly in the running, Kiritapu Allen.
You'll understand that this has been a shocking morning for us all, so it's time to take stock and have those discussions.
Allen's 39, has been in Parliament since 2017, is the Minister for Justice and is the MP for the East Coast. And in 2021, she shared her battle with cervical cancer, today thanking Ardern for her support.
She held my hand through some of the most incredibly tough times of my life, like she did with all New Zealanders through some of the most incredibly tough times of all of our lives.
Caucus will meet on Sunday to decide who will be their next leader and the next Prime Minister of Aotearoa, New Zealand. If they can't decide who gets the job, the contest will then go to the wider Labour membership.
It's going to be a quick process. There's unity in our caucus. And so the decision will be available to everyone on Monday.
I think that the next leader for our team will cut their own path, and that's going to be important as well, and we'll unify behind whoever the successful candidate is.
Leadership contests don't have to be like the Hunger Games, as the National Party seem to have made, perfected the art of.
Can Labour win the election? Bloody oath, absolutely.
Everyone clearly hoping it won't be a bloodbath. Amelia Wade, Newshub.
Our political editor Jenna Lynch is back with us now. Jenna, everything's up in the air now, isn't it? What does this mean for the election?
Yeah, anything anyone thought about this election prior to 1 p.m. today is now totally and utterly irrelevant. Whoever is chosen has a gargantuan task ahead of them to rebuild Labour's brand, because for the last 5 years, Labour has meant one thing, one person, Jacinda Ardern. It was entirely built around her, and so Labour's election campaign strategy will probably be torn to shreds. Of the obvious contenders, Chris Hipkins seems the most natural choice with the most name recognition, but with the date now set in stone, October the 14th, the game is completely unrecognisable. It has changed so much, but the game is officially on.
Jenna, thank you for that analysis. Tēnā koe.
Well, Simon Shepherd is in Morrinsville, Jacinda Ardern's childhood hometown.
He went there to gauge the response on the street. Simon, what have people been telling you?
Well, Morrinsville is, of course, where Jacinda Ardern went to high school. She went to Morrinsville College, was a student rep, got her first job here in a fish and chip shop, and, of course, her parents lived here. But none of that means that the people of Morrinsville are sad to see the Prime Minister go. In fact, there was a very interesting response when we broke the news to them earlier today.
Oh, wow, what the Oh, well, I'm very pleased to hear that.
And why is that?
She wasn't my favourite cup of tea.
Country's pretty divided on what they feel about her, so maybe she's listened to most of them that have told her bugger off.
Morrinsville's a farmer's town and she hasn't really provided for farmers. So.
It's just a nation.
Do you think she'll move back to Morrinsville?
Oh, there's bound to be somebody who'll give her a job down here.
Well, even if there was an enticing job, I don't know that Jacinda Ardern would be enticed back here. As you heard, the farmers and the locals are not impressed by what she and Labour have done whilst in government. So while there was shock at the sudden announcement, many were happy with the news.
Simon, thank you. Well, Jacinda Ardern was perhaps our most well-known Prime Minister internationally, where she was celebrated for her response to the Christchurch terror attack and the Christchurch call.
She made it to Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People and was interviewed by comedians on American primetime TV. Nick Trubridge takes a look at the reaction to the Prime Minister's resignation around the world.
A resignation that reverberated the world over.
Morning. We begin with breaking news today. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has just announced she's standing down.
Jacinda Ardern says she will not seek re-election.
Resigning as Prime Minister of New Zealand after 5 years, saying she has nothing left in the tank.
Jacinda Ardern thrust back into the international spotlight, one she's become very used to.
This was not just a leader of this country. Jacinda Ardern has really made her mark as an international icon, a global icon.
Because whatever the mood back home, the PM created a PR powerhouse abroad. From the United Nations General Assembly,
Me Too must become We Too. We are all in this together.
to international print and royal engagements, even the world's most famous talk shows.
Are you trying to create a diplomatic incident here right now?
Brand Ardern seemingly became one of our biggest selling points.
I'm so amazed, that you came to pick me up. Thank you so much. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family.
Her leadership here at home.
By donning the headscarf on that day, she drew a line and said, we are not going to attack people for their identity.
Often amplified afar. But it certainly wasn't all love. The Ardern government not always immune from the odd international broadside.
Even New Zealand, you see what's going on in New Zealand. They beat it. It was like front page, they beat it because they wanted to show me something. The problem is, big surge in New Zealand.
But despite waning popularity here, the friends she's made abroad may stand her in good stead if she takes up an international appointment. Nick Trubridge, Newshub.